Welcome to Unleashed. And don't forget to join us on Patreon for early access and exclusive content. Here are the guys.
Welcome to Unleashed. I'm outside. It's summer festival season coming. It's spring. It's actually kind of windy here. I regret this right now. I'm joined with Din of F-105 holding up a mug. Look at this. Hi, Din. How you doing?
Din Grogu mug. I'm good. How are you?
Grogu. That's a great. Yeah, you. Okay. I'm good. But before we get into how I'm doing, when you heard the name Din, did you smash your TV set? Did you go outside and streak? What was your reaction to
Well,
Din
first of all,
because we haven't talked about it since it happened, which has been a while. But yeah.
Well, Paul Bateman, head of the Ralph McQuarrie archives and Star Wars artist. He actually messaged me before it was public, and he thought, hey, he might be named after you. Din Djarin, Din Jalonen. And so right from that day on, I had a really horrible complex ego problem. It really went to my head.
So is Din Djarin, is he your favorite Star Wars character of all time now? Do you have a choice in the matter? Is he just it's Din or no one? Din or bust?
No, but I did. So do you know the story? Even Russell Chong, my friend, he was one of the 3 lead designers on the Clone Wars, because Dave Filoni was on RFR all the time too. He's like, you were on RFR. Dave must have got the name from you. So then my friend and I, Dominic Jones from Star Wars Underworld, ran into Jon Favreau in the Mando exhibit at Celebration Anaheim 2022. And I'm like, okay, I have a real problem. I have an ego problem. I need to know either way, John, where did the name come from? People like Russell Chong and Paul Bateman thinks it could have come from me because Filoni and I were on the same podcast a long time ago. And then Jon Favreau was like, no, I named him. And you could tell there was a bit of maybe he must get a lot of Dave. There's a lot of Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
I think Jon Favreau it must be like John and Paul, a little bit of a healthy competitive rivalry, but teamwork.
Yeah.
And he just said, no, I named him, but I give you permission to tell everyone I named him after you.
So why did you could have made up a story. You could have said, and Jon Favreau said, yeah, he's named after you.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, that's part of my thing since COVID was really getting my ego problems in check, because everyone who's an artist has one, because you're so self-focused, And spending years in daily meditation made me realize how silly that is. And I just want to be authentic, more than anything, authentic, decent friend and family member, and all that stuff I don't really care about. Yeah, it's more fun. I care that it's a funny story. I'd rather have a funny story than my ego stroked. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I think what you bring up, meditation stuff, is good. What you came out of that is great. I feel like humility is a big thing too, especially with social media taking on the life that it has, and how people feel like they have the right to say whatever they want and they're always right. No one's wrong anymore in this world, and it's nice to take a step back and be like, you know what, that's not important. What's important is being a decent person, being a decent human being.
Or even to take the judgmental words out of it. Just try being human, man. Right now, it's just hard, Turn off this stuff. You're hanging out with a friend, you're looking at your cell phone, seeing how many people liked your picture while you're trying to hang out with people you care about. Actually, to tie it into the EP, the 3 songs are conceptually designed around what do I want to speak of as a middle-aged person now, in terms of what would I want to say to a younger me or a younger other youth right now. And not, you say you're not special, is about this. It's about the way young people, because I'm a teacher now and I see it more with the kids I teach at the art school. And it's really not healthy, the fact that we used to base ourselves off comparing us to celebrities, but now it's even
Mhm.
worse. It's just because of your device, you're constantly comparing yourself not just to celebrities, but other people who might have more likes and followers and influencers. And I think kids are really suffering from that. So I think maybe now I can authentically deal with that as a teacher and as a musician, where I couldn't before COVID because I went through that.
Yeah, I find like you go on Twitter and stuff, and Twitter, I mean, Twitter's Twitter, but you see people, they post and like, I lost 5 followers today. Who cares? Like, because here's like, honestly, and I don't mean that.
Wow, I mean, but that's what's hard.
It's,
You know, who
I
cares too?
know.
But I feel now the responsibility, you know, as an adult, to do my part to point to another way of being. Yeah.
And that's
for
what I
young
mean. It's like,
people.
that's not like you lost 5. That's, you know, like, accept it. It's not the end of the world. You have real, like, you know, move on and grow. There's other things to worry about and to deal with. And you know, don't be so obsessed with your social. Anyway, let's get into your album.
Well, I could say, well, recently I lost 200 followers on Instagram due to my political stance on the war going on, but we won't get into that.
200. Well, yeah, we
200.
won't get into that. We're gonna stay out of the.
200.
We'll stick with galactic politics and
And
stuff.
guess what? I don't give a poodoo.
Oh, poodoo, good reference. Let's get it, because this is, so you have an album just dropped, an EP just dropped on May 4th, which is significant for Star Wars fans, I believe.
Oh, really?
A little day you're wearing a Star Wars fan. You are a huge Star Wars fan, as you've mentioned in the show earlier on in the show also. That you're a huge Star Wars fan. Let's get right into the early days of F-105 though. Can I go right back to day
please.
one? Like let's go back. Why not so much the name? I think we've talked about the name on this show and other shows. So not so much the name, but why you were on the soul, like why F-105? Like what was it that drew you to the first album and to kind of branch off and do that?
Yeah, well, one time George Stroumboulopoulos, you know, who's basically arguably the #1 musical authority in Canada, maybe next to Alan Cross, who programs all FM rock across the country for Chorus Radio. But George once interviewed me at Michael Moore Talk at the Convention Center at University of Toronto in way back for Fahrenheit, his movie Fahrenheit 9/11. And he said, well, okay, so what do you do? And I'm a musician. I'm in a band. Well, what are you called? The Souls. He goes, you're not like Creed, are you? You know, because he thought the Souls meant a Christian band, rock band. And I always really detested that connotation because it was SOLES, and we were shortened from traveling souls to souls. And so we lost the travel, you know. To me, it was more like, okay, we're like, the band was like, it was like a Fellowship of the Ring title. Like we're just walking, you know, traveling souls. And that's all you get from us, just walking. And so from that day on, I was uncomfortable with that connotation. I'm a proponent of spirituality, as everyone knows, but not religion. I don't like the C words of control, canon, cataclysm, creed. I don't like any of those words that try to tell other people how to think. So I don't like religion for that. I think the force is in everyone. You just got to take a moment to connect with it. And you don't need anyone else. Though it's better to be helping other people in that journey, but because we're all one. And so forever, when I finally realized we hit the end of the road for the Souls in terms of as people, that there was irreconcilable things that made it impossible to move ahead in a joyful and fun way. Not like we couldn't have kept going, but if it's not joyful and fun, forget it. There's no point. And I thought that's a great opportunity to just sort of start something new and rebrand myself with a name that has less connotations. So F-105, you could maybe read anything you want into that. Like, what do you read into that?
It's hard for me to say what I read into it because you've kind of told me. So I kind of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's tough that way. But like the music itself, when you put pen to paper, the very first, and I don't know if that's what you do. Maybe you pick up a guitar. I'm just gonna say pen to paper for the sake of sake of it.
Usually an
When you-
instrument, usually the guitar, because the vibrations start, like, it's weird. My hand will go to the chord, and I don't know if it's mental or if I'm like subconsciously feeling the right vibrations on the strings for what I'm feeling. But anyway, go
Is
ahead.
it just like a feeling, like you just pick it up one day and you have a feeling like, okay, let's do this, or
Yeah.
do you sit there and you say, you know what, I need to write a song.
Nope,
What's it going to be? Like, how
never.
does it
I never
like?
need to write it. I don't need to do anything.
That's
I don't need
take
to
me through
do
your
anything.
process.
I just need to be, and I was,
That's a good
before I figured that out for life, I knew that about songwriting. I'm like, I wouldn't be in this stupid, horrible industry if I just didn't love the music. And if they, like, the songs just started coming at 15 and they never stopped. And I quickly realized if I sat down with my knowledge to write a song, I remember I wrote a song once called Hope, and it was a nice little song about hope, but it was because I sat down to write one that it just sounded contrived. It worked. But the only songs, I think that artists or writers, creators, like, don't you ever feel like you've just like downloaded the thing? It's like you've downloaded the information from the force or the ether, or it just was channeled through you, or you're just feeling something and it just came out right when you started typing. That's what happens. So those are the only good ones, like Desert Planet. Down 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 down. Hit me when I was biking. It's like,
Oh
oh
yeah,
man, now I gotta pull over and I gotta
that kind of
sing
does
this
have
into
a
my
bike.
phone.
That
You
does kind
know?
of have like a biking feel to it. Like I can see that riding down a hill, like a dirt road, even with that music playing would be. That's a great visual.
Well, I was on
Really
Dundas. I
exciting.
remember where I was. I pulled
And
over on Dundas, just west of Yonge Street. Maybe near University. I was like, it's always like, you're just like, I
weird.
just want to get to where I'm going, but man, that's good. I better pull over and sing
Yeah.
that into my phone.
You always have your guitar on you, just in
Oh
case it
no,
comes.
no.
Just
The phone is the perfect thing. You used to have to like write it
yeah.
down. I don't do notes, nor did any of the Beatles, so that makes me feel better. But write down the words, and hopefully that would trigger the memory, whatever words I came up with on spot. But now with cell phones, just sing it in the phone.
Yeah. So do you sing? Do you have like how far into like Desert Planet are you until you get those? Like how far into it do you get the lyrics, and do you know what it's about?
Well, I don't. I think you're right. I think that there was something marching about that riff that was like movement. So I don't remember exactly, but I remember it was just like, I'm always coming from that hero's journey perspective. So it started out your footprints on a desert plain. I just remember it was like I was thinking about walking. Yeah. And then I don't remember anything after that. It's been a while now for that one.
Yeah, it has been. You got a new one out now. Let's talk. You have a love for Star Wars, as we've talked about several times today and previously. What do you when you are thinking of music for that you're putting together? Because you have a bunch of Star Wars like references and undertones to a lot of what you do and the hero's journey, as you said. Does that come naturally, or are you looking for ways to like bring the force and whatnot into the music? How do you combine your love for Star Wars? How do you combine your love for Star Wars with your music, but also keep them separate enough that it's not like it's not like, oh, you have to love Star Wars to love my music and vice versa.
Yeah, that's been a trick because, I think if you look at all my 8 albums with the Souls and F-105, I'm really dealing with, like, I like bands like the Beatles, or, Bob Dylan, or, any of the greats whose work became philosophical, talking about the human condition. And I really started to get frustrated being pigeonholed as a Star Wars band because there's Star Wars music, because that's where it broke through and I got a fan base. But all my albums, I'm talking about love in all its forms: friendship love, romantic love. I'm talking about God and spirituality and war and politics, all the great themes, And so that was frustrating, but I always tell people that what happened was more subconscious, because I was a fan of, the Tragically Hip, which is the most beloved band here in Canada, and Gord always mixed his hockey fandom with he's also a great philosophical writer. So I think it was that. It's subconsciously kind of my Gord Downie influence kind of happened with, and then I realized, oh, I just did what I've been doing, what Gord did with hockey with Star Wars in my own way, I think that I try not to ever be literal. It's the first time I mentioned something literal Star Wars, which was in this song Toys off Baby Makes 3 mix. And so the hero's journey thing is in every storyteller who ever existed. That's the whole point. That Joseph Campbell just came along with the Carl Jung influence and said these archetypes are in our DNA and in our very being, and these common elements are in all stories, all told throughout the world, through all time. So I think if you're really trying to really write, then it's just there. But then, because I was studying it for so long, I realized, oh, it has been there all along, but now I really want to do it in a focused way. For instance, the song Coals off like the first official Souls record, verse 2, I was putting in references to Anakin, like on Mustafar. Oh love, it was a breakup song. I'm crawling out of this lava pit. This depression is a chasm hole, a tomb trench abyss. And I was just riffing like a thesaurus on Mustafar imagery, which is hell imagery. And no one ever realized that. And then I just started doing it intentionally. And that's when the music really started to resonate with people, because obviously that the whole point of that is like to try to find a way to write in a way that connects with our universal experiences that we all have.
And you always write what you know. Rebel Girl. Can we talk about Rebel Girl briefly, which is the theme song? We used some of the riff for the intro for Rebel Scum podcast, but I want to talk about, because this one it's Rebel Girl, but your first iteration of it was Toronto Girl, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And I don't know if you want to talk about this.
Well, I think that was my door. I was a lot of the times what musicians do, and I don't know if screenwriters or novel writers like you are the same, but we often are like, I like that song, I want to make my version, so I always loved LA Woman by the Doors, huge Doors fan, going back on tour to LA, and I can't wait to go back to the pier and sit under it like Jim Morrison on Venice Beach and write some stuff like he did. So Toronto Girl was my attempt to write LA Woman and to find things that I loved about Toronto, which is increasingly less and less in this mad city. But I do love it, but it's just business now. There's no life here. Yeah. And that's why I'm not being negative. I'm just saying I like Toronto when it was more about living, but it had always been going on that direction, 5th largest market in North America, the banking city of Canada. But now there's nothing left. Like, no one could afford to live. Artists can't afford to be here. Yep. It's just a condo and business banking city.
Yep. You're absolutely right.
No, you can't move here if you're going to be an artist, So luckily I still have my apartment that I got a long time ago. But and then it didn't feel right. And then it just hit me, because I was writing it around the time that Disney bought Star Wars and all this stuff was happening with female characters. And then, sort of my niece, who's female, who's became a really big Star Wars fan because of Force Awakens and Rey and all that. And like this hat, Rogue One and Jyn Erso and all that. And I just thought, I want to celebrate that, because I especially have never wanted to go to the Star Wars parties that are all just dudes, I was like, the Star Wars parties are going to have girls, it's going to be much more fun now. And I don't mean that in like any sort of like weird way. I mean, like, who wants to go to the parties where you don't have that energy of the female presence? You know, it's just more fun.
Absolutely. I thought it was funny because I knew Toronto Girl, and then you're like, I have Rebel Girl, and I was like, oh, and at first I wasn't really sure what to make. Like before I listened to it, I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, is he just doing Star Wars? And it felt so natural, to be honest. Like it really didn't. Like sometimes you change lyrics to this and that, and you're like, oh, yeah, whatever. This one felt like it was a natural progression to like this is what the song was meant to be.
Yeah,
when I heard,
yeah,
it felt like Rebel Girl was its natural place.
Yeah. Toronto Girl didn't feel natural, and then it just hit me. I even remember when those things hit me, I know they're real because I still remember I was on a streetcar and I texted someone, okay, I want to change the lyrics to Rebel Girl. Yeah.
Awesome.
I was singing in my head, Rebel Girl. And then, of course I got in trouble. I got trolled by people in fandom at the time who had a podcast called Rebel Girl, and they're like, you're stealing our podcast name. And I'm like, Rebel Girl just hit me. Like, it's a very, very generic title, and then it turns out that podcast stole their name from the Bikini Kill song, the all-female punk band, Rebel Girl. So then I was like, ooh, well, they're much cooler than me, Bikini Kill. So I hope my song survives next to them. And I felt weird about that. Like, oh yeah, I don't really want to, if I knew there was a Bikini Kill song, maybe I would have added brackets to mine to change up the name a bit.
But do you ever find that, like, how many songs have you had that, like, or is this the only one where it's been this, like, other songs that had the same name? Do you run into that? Do you think when you're naming a song,
or a band name or an artist name?
Yeah. Have you changed names of songs because of that in the past? Like, you're like, oh, I have this great idea for a song. Yeah, it's like, this one's called Stairway to Heaven. And then like a week into it, you're like, wait a minute. That's
all right.
Like, is that
Stairway to the World Between Worlds next?
That one would fly. So that would fly. But has that ever, like, does that happen often or at all?
Yeah,
or do you care?
No, I mean, you care a bit because I think toys, putting the brackets on toys like Peace Frogs of Venice Mix, definitely. I don't know if there's other songs called Toys, but just the word, when you Google it, you're not going to find that song.
Yeah.
And artistically, that always presents a great opportunity it's like adding a bridge to a song with different lyrics that add different meaning to what the song is about. So I like doing the brackets. A lot of the times, No Man's Land off the first F-105 record, I realized that's the right title because I'm talking about I'm talking not so much about gender for that song, but I was talking about the idea that Europeans came to Canada and they claimed possession of the land, and the idea of possessing land is something I don't. It's actually, I love the fact I get to say this on a podcast. I think it's insane. I think we're insanely primitive people. The miracle of that blade of grass that grows out of the ground, the genius that it took to make that. And you think you can effing own that piece of land? Like, you did not, like the miracle that we're standing on. It makes me mad. Especially that it's so out of control that no one can even afford to own any bit of it for themselves. But yeah, so No Man's Land was about that. And that had to be the title. And coincidentally, at the time, there was that great scene from the Wonder Woman movie, No Man's Land, so. Yeah, even if I knew something a title is cliche and used by a lot of people, but sometimes the cliche is true and you just have to use it.
Yeah,
Desert Planet.
I find when I'm writing, sometimes you lean into the cliches sometimes, because if you do it in a way, if you do it in an honest way, the cliches are cliche for a reason.
Yeah.
It's like, and so if you lean into it in the right way, it doesn't always come across as cliche. It's a cliche, but you're recognizing it as something original. Let's get into Baby Makes 3. Before we do, I'm going to do a whole bunch of side Akbars. If you're looking for a t-shirt, if I wanted a good t-shirt,
thank you.
where would I go to get a good solid T-shirt. And I'm gonna take the link, and if I don't, just remind me. But I'll put the link in the description. We have
Oh,
a link
okay,
for
yeah.
we have a link for our T-shirts down below, but I'll put a link for yours as well. So just let's talk about your merch store. You have a new merch store right now. Very like it just launched like today, right? Or
Yeah.
yesterday, or
Yeah. I did the T Public thing for the first
Yeah.
time. I was actually, because I'm an artist, an Ontario College of Art and Design grad and everything. I have always just liked the opportunity of marrying my visual art and my music, and I think sometimes better, sometimes more forced, or sometimes more perfect and natural. Like this album, the cover is my niece, a sketch I did of her.
it's
Digitally altered.
a great cover, by the way.
I do think it's great too. It's one of the. I was just inspired truly by my niece, and you could see that love and joy in her face, and then in me drawing it, and then realizing, oh, she's wearing the same. I'm not wearing them now because you can't talk into them, but the AKG Mark II audiophile headphones, that people get for recording or listening to vinyl. And I just saw a picture on my brother's Instagram of her wearing those headphones, and I was like, "That I have to draw that as the cover." And it also made a good Christmas gift. And where are we going? The store? Yeah. Oh, because he complimented the cover. Yeah. So I do like to screen print my own shirts and all that, but like the classic F-105 black and white one of the Avro Arrow, where the name comes from, the legendary Canadian, the innovative, ahead of its time 1950s jet, the CF-105 Avro Arrow. And but with all the colors and the craziness of this one, and wanting something and not wanting to travel with the Merc on tour when I go on tour, I did the T Public store. So the URL is I believe tpublic.com /F-105-Merc.
Yeah, it'll be below, because the stuff looks great. You can get it, help support. It's all on like this weekend, which is a long weekend here in Ontario and Canada. Next weekend is the long weekend for our friends down south, but it's on sale all weekend, I believe. All your merch will be on sale for at least 2 days.
For the starting off of the store, so that's really cool.
Yeah, T Public is we had some great partnerships with T Public, and they make some pretty quality shirts. So shout out to T Public and you being on there, and check out the link below. Okay, Baby Makes 3. When did this start? Because here, you know what? Sorry, let me scratch that. Scratch it, because I've heard all of the F-105 albums now.
Thank you.
And they're all very different, but they're all very similar.
That's what do you mean by that? That's great. Well, I know what that means to me. My philosophy is the same. So the thing that binds it all together is even with the soul's work.
You. Yeah, it's 100% you, but they're very different in genre and style and texture. Like it's just, but it sounds. But I was sitting here. I mean, obviously it's your voice, so your voice is your voice. But aside from that, I know
everybody come hear how good I sound. That's my.
I know. But even if you took your vocals out of it, it's still you could still understand that they're related to each other. But how do you go from one to the other? And I know you, earlier you mentioned how the music just comes to you. But I find, musicians, we all have our favorite bands, and our favorite bands, as much as they all sound different, 90% of them, they're very similar in the same type of way. So how do you get, do you, when you're thinking of it, if something comes to your head and you're like, no, that sounds too similar to Desert Planet, or you're like, I have to think of something different when you're fleshing it out, or is it just what is the mood that you're in when you're putting these together?
I was talking about this teaching art because my visual art is the same way. It's all over the place, all genres. And so when I teach my students, I teach them the fundamentals. And when you have the fundamentals, style is an illusion. Rhythm is rhythm, melody is melody. And if you have a command and understanding of the fundamentals, whatever your art form, you could work in any genre or style. that's the intellectual explanation and how it works. But I would say that when I was growing up with a band, you know, two of my biggest things where I'd be listening to mixtapes of the Beatles from my older brother, or I had like Changes Bowie, you know, that double, it was like a double cassette at the time. And I think that effect was that those two of my favorite artists when I was a kid, no album sounded the same. So it was probably just that being having my favorite artist from a very young age conditioned to my head to think that nothing needs to sound the same. And you just get excited about, and then now it's intentional, you know, I just want to be an excited artist who's not afraid to change and lose listeners and fans because they're expecting one thing. I just love being fearless about going wherever the inspirations of the song says it needs to go, like, and open to other people I work with. Like in terms of Alex, who co-produced the first F-105 record and was longtime drummer with the Souls and drummer on that record. For this mix of F-105 3, I really just said, you know, I'm your biggest fan. So where do you see these songs going? I only had notes for Songs for Our Kids and Not Special. Songs for Our Kids was very intentionally pop punk, and Not Special was very intentionally based on a Miyazaki soundtrack song from Arrietty, and it was supposed to be chill and heartfelt as a vibe. But for Toys, I just said to him, like, go crazy with what direction you feel the song should go. And then we both realized that when we played at Ontario Place the year before, our version came out funky. So you can see that live video of us on our YouTube. It's one of the first videos I have featured.
I think if I remember correctly, I think you posted about that, how it kind of surprised you, how you know, it was something else happened there. How do you come up with why like?
So you just go with that, right? So this funky thing happens, and Alex was a funk drummer, like professional for 10 years. They toured all over North America. So like when you get that excitement, you're like, okay, this has to be a funk song. Well, that's exciting. You know, let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. What is it with like when it's 3 songs now? So you have an EP, 3 songs, Baby Makes 3. Was that intentional? Were you like, this is only going to be 3, or were these the 3 of you had like 5 and these were the 3 you were happiest with? Like what was the decision process like for that?
Usually it's like you have an album's worth of material of stuff hopefully is related. Usually it is, because you've been writing it at one point in your life, and if you're most artists, your work is a diary. But and then you record them, and then you might leave out 1 or 2 because the recording didn't work out as well for whatever reason, and then you'll release those songs on a deluxe 10th anniversary edition. But with this one, it was like 3. It's F-105 3, and I wanted to work like an artist does, like a triptych, like 3 artworks that work together. I wanted to do that and have 3 songs, beginning, middle, and end, that really dealt with a youth theme. Yeah, and so there was no consideration for other songs. No,
it was just these 3. Toys was the first one that you wrote?
I think Songs for Our Kids was something that I had filed away from probably the mid 2000s or late 2000s, probably around 2008.
And when you say filed away, do you mean in your head or like in a drawer somewhere?
Oh no, like I have like files of demos that I record in my room, sometimes just on my computer, you know, voice app or phone, and it's just like I had that riff of the chords in the first line, there are no songs for our kids. So then when I was thinking about making this EP, I remembered that one. So I went back and I was like, is that as good as I remember? And I was like, oh, it's really good. Those are good chords. Yeah.
Yeah. I asked because I do have like screenplays that are like, you know, half a page and they're just saved. I just have them saved. everywhere on my computer in like a folder, because it's like one day I might go back and be like, yo, this would actually work, or I'll take it and I'll use it in something. So that's why I'm asking, because it's like it is nice to save it around, but I also have things on my head that I've been working on for years, and I've never written it down, but it's in there, and it's every once in a while I'll go for a walk or a bike ride or whatever. I'm like, oh, that idea, and I can't flesh it out, and I can't write it down for whatever reason, but it lives there. I don't know if you have anything like that.
Yeah, well, I think that my motto might be work smart, don't work hard. Because well, it's like if you're smart if you save your good ideas, and then usually they'll just naturally come up again when they fit into the right place, instead of having to, that was great, I had these great punk chords and this great first and a melody in this I hope is great, and this melody and then it was just filed away, and it's like, okay, well, I don't have to think about what the third song will be. I don't have to work hard to write it now. I have that one already written. Well, I just finished writing it, but yeah.
Is the fourth album going to have 4 songs?
Well, the fourth album is technically F-105 2 Side A, which is already recorded and almost finished. It'll be out before by fall 2024. And it has
really?
6 songs. But it's not it. But technically what F-105 4, maybe maybe that might be good. I think, okay, wait a second. Alone Apart, I Didn't Know, Oh Toronto, and WTF. I technically have 4 songs written that could be F-105 4, yeah, that are good ones. But I am writing a 5th called I and AI.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So when you say you write, because we talked about it a little bit before, but when you're writing and it comes in your head, how long does it take you from not recording it, like, because that's a different thing, but how long does it take you to get from, oh, this is a cool riff, to, okay, that lyric works, to, I have a song that's ready to go, like ready to be recorded?
I think you just, at this point, I'd like to think that I've mastered my craft. So after 30 years, I kind of feel like I know at this point when something sounds like it's good and ready to go, I guess.
Just like there's just like everything's different.
Well, the other thing is I'll play open mics a lot when I'm writing new songs.
Yeah.
So that's the only litmus test that works in terms, for me as a writer, to see. I can think something's good in my room just for myself, but you don't know until you're in front of people, till you immediately, they don't even have to say anything. You just know if it's working or not. So I'll always test stuff at open mics. Yeah.
How's the reaction to like new original things? Because I go see, like, I moved away into the middle of nowhere, so I don't see anybody anymore, but I used to see a lot of friends, and always be cover bands, and a lot of times like, don't play your original stuff, right? That's the hope, to like just play the covers, and then sometimes they'll squeeze in 1 or 2 originals, and I'm always like curious, and the reaction is, I've always seen positive. I just want to know what it's like for you when you're playing original music in front of people who don't know what's coming up next. Like, how is that? How is the reaction? But mostly, how do you feel about it, and what do you take away from that?
Well, it's very hard to, like, a prominent sort of Canadian in the music scene. He's sort of my punk Gandalf, Jamie Vernon. He wrote the Canadian Pop Encyclopedia. You can find at Indigo or whatever. It's great. He said that he's hooked on this album, that Toys Made His Wife Dance, Songs for Our Kids was a great sort of fresh reinvention of like pop punk from the late 70s, early 80s, and Not Special. You Say You're Not Special, he felt was a message and a song that all kids should be put in front of all kids everywhere. And but the business side of, even though I feel like if it did get in front of all kids everywhere, it would do really good, that's so much out of my control and very hard. But when I get in front of people, the live, I can sell them on any original song every time. Doesn't matter where I am. Toronto, the second hardest live music city in the world to play at, or London, which I played at, the hardest city in the world to get a good connection or reactions to people. London, England. I'll play there and kill it. Anywhere, like I for some reason, I don't know why, I've worked at it really hard, but when I get live in front of people, it's my favorite thing ever, and I can entertain them with my own songs. I just love that. And I guess
How
from
often do
loving it, I know how to do it. So I never went down the path of cover bands. You know, like the Hip did that. They toured like all Ontario for forever until doing cover songs, and people liked their Doors and CCR covers. And then that became the Hip. They would throw in one or two songs here or there. So that's a great path too, but I wasn't on that one.
How often do you do an open mic night?
Well, I'll do them a lot when I'm writing. Yeah.
Mostly just when you're writing, like just like today, randomly you won't be like, I'm gonna go to an open mic. Like it's more
no.
Like, okay.
Well, I will for community. It's my community in Toronto and seeing friends, but my drive to do it only happens when they call it the woodshed period. Do you use that term in writing?
No, I like it though. Actually, I don't call it that. I have heard that, yes.
Okay, so like this cycle, it's usually 2 or 3 years. You know, you release an album, and then you tour it for a year, and then you go back home and you rest a bit, and then you start writing, and you got a woodshed. You got to, you know, it's like metaphorically lock yourself in that shed and write stuff. So when I'm in that place and I'm not touring and recording, because even when you're recording, you got to fully do that if you want it to be good. If you're touring, you got to fully do that if you want it to be good. Writing, same thing. So when it's writing woodshed moment, that's when I start to live like a monk, and then I'll go play maybe about now. It used to be 4 or 5 or 6 nights a week for years when I was young, trying to develop myself. But now I find if I've written some new songs, once a week is good enough to go find out how they're doing with people. Yeah, if they work.
So you have songs ready to go. You have an album ready to go after this one already. But when do you think your next process for writing will begin?
Well, luckily, hopefully, I did say that these would be my last 2 albums, but I was heavily suffering from PTSD at the time, and I couldn't deal with any of the normal tensions and conflicts that happen with working in a band. It's really hard to work with musicians or other producers and engineers, and then the business side of the label, because it's just the way group work is. Conflicts happen, and I couldn't deal with it when I had PTSD. Also, I felt like not all of my relationships in music, but they were starting to become unfun again. And I don't want to do it. I won't make one after these 2 if it's not going to be fun. And it might be like work stuff out and things will be fun again, because like I said, I have these songs and I do like them. Yeah, for what might be F-105 for.
But even if you don't release another album, you can never stop writing though. I don't think just from the amount of times that we've talked, I just feel like you might not record something, but you'll always have something. I just think that you and you talked about earlier today, like you love it too much, I think. And
now I love it in a way that's not attached too, because it's not filling my void. That's why I am at a place like whatever. You know, if I don't make, I love these 2, and they would be great to end on because I love them that much. But also now that I'm feeling better, I could see myself making more albums after. I actually really admire artists like Michelangelo. I'm not comparing myself to Michelangelo, but
like the Ninja Turtle.
I'm feeling like pizza right now, actually.
I could always go for that.
I could always go for TMNT and pizza. Yeah. I do consider myself on purpose to be a Renaissance man, I guess, Renaissance person, you know, with my visual art and music, worked at it every day for 30 years to be that. With similar themes, you know, that artists were into in the Renaissance, like those like Hermetic, Gnostic, Enlightenment thinking kind of things that I'm into. And but Oh man, what were we talking about? That sounded like I was stoned. But
I
I'm
think
not
you're gonna
stoned.
keep even if you don't do another album, you're gonna keep writing though because you can't stop.
No, I think I just admire artists like Picasso, maybe, and Michelangelo. That as long as I'm not repeating myself, and as long as it's fun, I wouldn't mind making stuff until the day I die and getting better. Like my intention is to get better, not be one of those artists that gets worse as they get older. But there are some that get better, like Michelangelo. Yeah, hopefully that's what I'd like to be. Actually,
Well, definitely this album has 3 great tracks.
thank you.
Before we wrap this up, yeah, because I actually you sent them to me early, and I listened to them a lot, and I was listening to your live stuff. And also you're on YouTube. We should put your YouTube channel because you have some stuff on there too. I'll put that link down below as well, and the Spotify. We'll put all your links down below. Everybody just go to it, check it out.
Yeah, Spotify in that order, because even though I hate Spotify because artists don't make money, I just sort of interject Spotify, YouTube, and the Merc store. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
we'll do all
you
3
have
of
to
those.
now. Like radio stations want to see what your streams are on
Yeah.
Spotify if they're going to play
Absolutely.
you. So I got to play that game. So please,
Yeah, we gotta do it. So
Spotify.
we'll put that link. If I have the wrong link, you will tell me, James, you're an idiot. But when listening to these 3 songs,
No.
let's say I haven't heard these songs before, and you're like, James, here's Spotify, here's my headset. You're gonna listen to these 3 songs. What do you hope I take away from the songs individually and as a whole?
Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't thought about it, but I feel
we should have done a prep.
I imminently feel the answer. I imminently feel the answer, which is that I would want you to feel more connected to yourself and life around you by listening to it, and enjoy joy. That you would feel joy that there's that life. This music is sort of celebrating life, and life is all right.
You couldn't. Yeah, if you told me that's what you want me to get out of it, how could anyone turn that down? All right, right before I say wrap it up, Ahsoka, Mandalorian, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Andor. Am I missing any of the live action shows?
Thank you. This is fun.
All of them.
Okay, and Ahsoka, Mandalorian, Andor, Book of Boba Fett.
Book of Boba Fett. That I love. Okay, give me your.
Just live action.
Just live action,
okay.
Top to bottom. Which one did you enjoy the most, and which one did you not enjoy the most? And I'm not saying did you hate it or anything like that. Just and
yeah, no hate.
Yeah. What was your what order would you give them?
Okay, so I'll just say my order is not what I think.
Putting you on the spot. I should let everyone know that you're on the spot. Sorry.
I'm not into judging and ranking stuff, but I would say probably if you're going to argue what the best show is, it'd be hard to not argue Andor, because it seems to be sort of this literary masterpiece, But in terms of my personal fave, hands down, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Crazy amazing.
The last episode, the stuff with Anakin, Vader, and Obi-Wan is also, you'll hear Hayden and Ewan talk about it. It became about even their own relationship on screen. I just feel like I did a post today. You can go read it. I could read it to you, but essentially I feel like that is the greatest moment that's ever been on screen in all of Star Wars ever. And it's built on the backs of all the legacy and the great stuff that Lucas left. Like in that one moment, everything that's the OT and the Clone Wars and the PT is tied together into the best, in my opinion, it's the best acted, most emotionally powerful scene in all Star Wars, when the mask comes off and Hayden and Ewan connected. It's the most beautiful thing ever in Star Wars, in my opinion. So I'm not going to say that show's the best, but for me it is, because it leads up to that.
And this is something else that drives me nuts with social media is, you know what? There's a difference between my personal favorite and what I can agree is the best. Because my personal favorite is very rarely quote unquote the best. You know,
What's
I
your
like what I like.
from the new
My
stuff?
favorite, honestly, it's Mando, but I have this weird love for the Book of Boba Fett that I just
Huh?
cannot.
The whole
Everyone
thing?
hates it. The whole freaking thing. I was like,
Wow, I
and I
gotta
tell you what, this.
rewatch it now.
Well, nobody agrees with me. I'm one of 7. I always say that liked it, but you know what it is? It's
I
like
loved it.
it's
I just couldn't stand the mod speeders and the whole mod crew.
well,
It just was
they
not
weren't.
something that it was
They
really.
weren't. They weren't my favorite either,
Yeah.
but they didn't bother me like it bothered a lot of people. Like I was like the stuff in Obi-Wan that bothered me more
Hmm,
than that.
okay.
But the stuff you mentioned, Obi-Wan, is I 100% agree with what you said. But for me, the Book of Boba Fett, I don't know. It was just when there's moments where there's just silence in that show, and I'm like, yeah, this is what I love. Like I love in A
Like
New
what?
Hope when 3.
I want to watch that
I'd have to
because
I think the first
silence
episode.
is important in A New Hope in the slow moments. So
That like
please.
yeah, like one of my favorite things in Star Wars when I always think back and I never talk about it is just 3PO wandering that desert alone.
Yeah.
And
And
I'm
the
like,
music,
yeah,
the wonder you get from that is thank you. I've never heard anyone else talk about this, but I'll listen to that music at night because it takes me there.
yeah, it's just and I never talk about it either. Like which maybe I should.
That's great.
But like but when I watch Boba Fett, there's some points to it, and I've only watched it. I think I've watched it only twice, and it's been years. But I remember just the first time I saw it, there was a part in I think the first or second episode where it was kind of quiet for a while. There wasn't much going on, and I was like, I was just like, oh man, this is great. And then I saw the reaction. I was like, oh, I'm alone. I'm
Oh,
thinking,
really? The people hated
like,
that slowness? Yeah,
yeah,
because
everyone
the
hates
ADD
everything.
age. TikTok,
But
TikTok. What's the next?
yeah, exactly. Everybody wants
there's a
action,
cat.
and I've seen
There's a
people
cat
like,
dancing. There's a cat singing. There's a 5-year-old
yeah,
singing opera. There's
yeah, and
someone dancing like an idiot.
yeah, I'm not into that. Like I like this so I like slow burns and stuff. I really appreciate that. Andor is a brilliant show though. You know, just like everything's Andor is just so brilliant. It and Ahsoka, you see, and I loved Ahsoka. I just felt like it didn't end. It just kind of
No.
stopped. Right. And
See,
it was like
that's that's not the best ending. Yeah, and that surprised me
no,
because Filoni's endings are always awesome. All 18
yeah.
of the Clone Wars endings are good.
And I would
Are
have been
great.
okay with it. I would have been more okay with it if they were like, and season 2 is coming in like a year. And you're like, okay, okay, fine. But instead it was like it ended. Like maybe we'll get season 2. We don't know. I'm like, well,
Oh, there's no maybe. Of course we're getting
no,
season
I know,
2.
but like
They
but
just
it's
got to
still
make
just
people sweat a bit and beg for it.
yeah, but that's not. I just not cool. Like it just stopped. And that was my problem with that. And Obi-Wan, like I liked. Obi-Wan, I think would have been stronger if they just stuck to their guns and made it a movie. Because I do think there's a lot of good in there.
Oh well, you could just go online
But
and download.
yeah, I know you can do that, but
People have made those movie cuts. Yeah.
yeah, I know. You know what though, and one thing with the show that was the Luke at the end, kind of like when he was being chased by Reva and stuff. I was like, I don't like, and I'm not
That's
even
my one
caring.
criticism actually of the whole show. That's
Yeah,
actually my one critique that I felt like this seems to be kind of what is Star Wars? It's when someone is redeemed, and I felt like I actually heard, and don't take my word for it, but that Deborah Chow had some frustrations with Disney's sort of Lucasfilm saying sort of that might, don't take my word for it because I could be totally wrong and it's just gossip if it is, you know. But I heard, and I don't like that, but that is the one thing to me that seemed forced. Like I would have left it. I would have liked it better if they actually left her open, like. Because the senator, the inquisitor says, revenge does wonders for the will to live, does it not? You know, it would have been great if we just ended on that thought that maybe she's not dead and she's going to tap into the dark side to in her wanting revenge now to live, and just left her there. Because I didn't find it added to the impact. That last episode could have just been about Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah, absolutely. It could have been like that, but they did what they did, and that's it. So yeah, I've honestly, I had this conversation with someone the other day where I said, you know, they haven't been perfect, but there hasn't been. I wouldn't call any of the live action shows terrible.
No.
They've all had their redeeming qualities. Some I like more. Some I've liked more than others. Same with the movies. I've liked some of the movies more than others. I haven't disliked any of the live action that we've gotten.
I've
I
only
think
ever disliked one thing Star Wars in my life, and I thought I would never. Everyone's always like, "You just love everything Star Wars does," but I won't even go there. There's only one Star Wars thing I don't.
I won't ask you. Do you want me to ask you what it is? Or you
No.
want to leave it at that? Let's leave it at that because you hate lightsabers.
Yeah. I'll just say there was too many lightsabers in Rise of Skywalker, so that's all I'll say. No, I'm joking.
Too many lightsabers in Rise of Sky. I'm trying to think of how many there were in that movie.
No, there isn't.
I think there's
yeah.
No,
that's not my favorite
that
movie. I don't want to get into it why, but for some reason, no matter how many times, and I've spent top dollar at Toronto's Laser IMAX 3D theater to see that movie 10 times. So I literally spent $250 trying to convince myself I would like that movie. Sorry.
I actually like that movie. It's not great though, but I do enjoy it in the way that I enjoy like a cream egg at Easter.
Like an
analogy. It's gonna rot my teeth, but actually, you know what I call what I call the sequel trilogy is like a New Hope is a donut. It tastes delicious, but it's empty calories. The Last Jedi is.
You mean Force Awakens? Yeah.
Force Awakens is what did I say? Whatever. Force Awakens is a donut. It's empty. It's delicious, but it's empty calories. The Last Jedi is you got to eat your vegetables. You know.
Yeah.
And the rise of
the ones you don't like in particular.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to. And then the Rise of Skywalker is like you have to eat this 400-pound steak and the potato. Like it's all of that. You're like, oh god. It's like there's so much.
Rise of Skywalker, to me, the analogy would be like it's like you have this top sirloin steak over here, but then you have this bag of no-name Doritos there, like no-name shit. It's like there's some great stuff and there's some stuff where you're just like, what? It's a
you gotta eat this, but also yeah.
But I would just say The Force Awakens. I think it looks like a donut, and I would normally not like it for that. I wouldn't like it because it's just reinventing what had already been done. But what it did with the ending was new. That one shot of the lightsaber going past Kylo into Rey's hand with the music was deep and genius, and that movie's all worth it to me for that. You know. The magic.
Donuts are worth. I love donuts. Donuts are
okay.
Worth. I do love donuts.
But I mean, the donut has one like maybe healthy piece of like pure cocoa, no sugar, chocolate on top.
I guess
that's good for you.
Some might not get any. This is a donut with a banana on top. The banana.
Yeah.
Well, I'm eating healthy. I'm having fruit. All right, let's wrap it up. Once again, before we leave, this is Din F-105, new album, Baby Makes 3, out now. Din, where can we find the music? Where can we find your merch? And anything else you want to promote while we're at it?
Okay, so the handle is F-105 Music everywhere, except for YouTube. It's just F-105. And you can see the new toys. The lyric videos for toys is pretty cool. It features a lot of my original art I've made of people over the last 20 years, portraits. And then the biggest thing is to listen to the album on Spotify, Baby Makes 3 Mix, on repeat all day long, every day, maybe for the next 2 years. And
I've been playing it while we've been talking.
Do anything else with your life, just please be like James, just listen to the album on repeat and don't stop. And then check out the merch store. tpublic/F105-merc. Thank you.
Link in the description for sure. And great artwork again. Love the artwork on this one. Love the colors too. It's it catches your attention right away.
Yeah, really pop. I wanted to make a cover that popped like the sound that mostly Alex came up with for the album. Yeah, Alex Mine.
This would be a great
shout out to Alex. Thanks, brother.
Thank you, Alex. This would be a great vinyl cover if you had this on vinyl. It would be great.
Thank you. It's only 3 songs, so we could do a 10-inch.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
because a 10-inch fits up to 15 minutes. So I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah?
But I mean, it's a lot of money to buy it, and then if you don't sell them. But one day what I'd like to do is a full album release of F10 on vinyl of F105 2 side A and B, and then have like a bonus 10-inch of F105 3 in it. That's my dream project. Yeah.
Well, keep me up to date on that.
Okay.
I'm going to listen to this album on our way out. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Din, for joining me once again. Always a
Thanks
pleasure
for having
you on
me.
the show.
Yeah.
Love having you on 11 News Talks. We got to do it again more recently than this one took than the last time. Thanks for watching, everybody. May the force of others be with you.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.